I'm going to delve a little bit more today into the synth side of things. More specifically, I'm going to look at Mama by Genesis, and I had to really come up with some interesting ideas, but most of the solutions were based on how long does a note sustain, how many notes can I play at one time, what will play when I play all the notes or one of the notes, and the use of low frequency oscillators. So this is a discussion on all of that. Anyways, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get some information out of it and see what I have to do that's a little bit different than what somebody who plays synths with their fingers does. Here's my set list for Mama. Here's my patch list. we have play and stop buttons that I have assigned to the keyboard, and it automatically is set to send a stop command, so it doesn't start the minute I go to this. So if I click on the stop button, you'll see that I have it assigned to the low D sharp. This is the low D sharp for this patch on my MalletKAT. And I always tend to assign it to the low D sharp, the stop button, and I always assign the play to the low C sharp for the play button. It keeps me from not getting confused as to where did I put the play button for this one, where did I put the play button for that one. It's not always going to be that octave, depending on how it's set up on the MalletKAT. That might be a different octave, so you kind of have to sometimes find it, but that's it. So then I can just hit the C sharp when my mallets are still in my hands, and it will end up playing the sequence. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. So you can see the sequence I have. Notice that I have this going through the chorus pedals, but so any low sound, just a drum, just goes that low note the whole time. This is a loop. So we got the low Taurus. I was talking over it, which you probably couldn't hear me. We got the going through the Taurus channel, which is usually, I hope that the sound engineer assigns that to a lot of subs, because I wanted all the low frequency stuff to go through that channel. And then we have the drum machine going through the sequencer track, and it is really just a looped drum machine that you turn on and off. It's not a backing track. It's a looped drum machine. There is a click track also for us. I just turned it off for here. All of that is playing inside of Ableton. So if we come over here, we'll see that we have the click here. There's the drone. And this is my drum machine, and I think I ripped it right off the recording because it's right there at the beginning of the recording. I just ripped this right off the studio album. And it's just a little 2-bar phrase. Looks like I put it down for 4 bars, and it just loops and loops and loops until I hit a stop command or some other command to stop it playing it. So it's not, I can start this song, and whenever I feel like, if we get off in some way by a bar, it's not going to matter. It is not a backing track. It's just a drum machine loop. And that's it. Now for my sounds. So for this first sound, this spacey, eerie sound, things I've done. One, I made it monophonic. That way, you can't, if you make a sound monophonic, you can't play more than one pitch at a time. So I use monophony a lot, probably more than regular keyboardists who play with their fingers, because I need to create a very legato sound, a smooth transition from one pitch to the next. And you can do that pretty easily with fingers, but it's a little harder when you're just striking like a mallet to a pad. It's hard to make that transition smooth and legato. So monophony, whenever I can use it, in this case for this lead sound, which is monophonic, I use it, I put it in monophony, one pitch at a time. I think the only thing I want to say about this is the sound. I always use Reason as my VST inside of Gig Performer. And this is set up inside of a combinator. A combinator is a cool device that allows you to combine all of their kind of instruments together to make a mega instrument. I only have one sound producing instrument in here, this synthesizer called Europa, but you can see I also stacked a few other devices in it. There's a little EQ. I guess I wanted to get rid of some stuff that was a little harsh, and it's still a harsh sound. And then I have this guy, which is a low frequency oscillator. It has 2 LFOs. What's a low frequency oscillator? The human ear can hear between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. And we use oscillators, with Bob Moog and the early guys in synthesis, they called them oscillators, and those oscillators were these kinds of waveforms, like this one right here that's a sine wave, that was producing a certain type of sound that would that we could hear. And those were our first electronic synthesis sounds with using oscillators, and we tended to call them that here. They call it an engine, and you can see they use the word wave here. But for here, this is a low frequency oscillator, meaning it's below 20 hertz. What's hertz? 1 second of the cycle of a sound wave equals 1 hertz. So if you think about the full cycle of a sound wave and how fast it is, you got to get up to 20 hertz for us to hear it, and that's your low bassy sounds, 20 kilohertz. After that, we start to lose we start to lose those higher frequencies. So this is below 20 hertz, hence low frequency oscillator. And we use this to affect sounds in some way. In this case, what I did is I'm going to flip over to the back of the rack, and I have this low frequency oscillator outputting over to the pitch bend wheel on this device. So you can see that I have the rate going pretty fast. It's not synced to the tempo or anything because I just want it to create a little bit of vibrato. And I just use this to add some vibrato to the sound to give it some motion. And you can see that by the way this light is flashing, it's moving. The rate is pretty fast. And I'll prove to you how this works, but it's basically affecting pitch bend, giving us a vibrato effect. And it's just minimal, but you can kind of hear it. If I change the pitch bend range of this pitch bend wheel, right now the range is a half step. If I made it larger, you'd hear more clearly what this is doing to it. So low frequency oscillators are great. They add a lot of... I just wanted it to be a little more subtle. They add a lot of motion to a sound and make it a little less static. And that's really the only interesting thing about that one. From there, though, I use low frequency oscillators again. I have the same lead sound, and this was a split on the keyboard. So the upper half has this lead sound still that you just heard. And then the lower half has this thing that I just called 16ths because, again, I used a low-frequency oscillator, and that low-frequency oscillator is this part right here on this old device called the Subtractor. I love this device. Subtractive synthesis, which was the first type of synthesis that goes back to the Moog synthesizers. This is it. It has two oscillators in it. I'm using both oscillators, using different waveforms for it. And a pretty sharp attack kind of waveform. This sawtooth wave can be very harsh sounding. Now the other thing we need to know about is filtering, because I applied the LFO here not to pitch like I did with the lead sound, but I applied it to the filter. And I also used this same kind of sawtooth waveform, which I have selected here for the LFO. I also synced it to the tempo. So it's synced to what my drum machine is set to what Ableton Live is telling us to sync to. It's synced to the clock, so it's in time, which then allows me to set the rate to a specific actual metric marking, in this case, the 16th note. So if the click is clicking quarter notes at dot, 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 this waveform's going dot, 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 to this rate. I have the amounts like completely maxed out, 0 to 127. That's what you get for MIDI value, so it's at the max. I want it full on doing this, and this LFO is applied to the filter frequency. So what it's doing is like this filter frequency. What is a filter? Basically, it's messing with the EQ of something. You're taking out the highs, or you're taking out the lows, or you're taking out both the highs and the lows and keeping stuff in the middle. I have this set to an low pass filter. So meaning that as I lower this, I lose all of my higher frequencies, okay? And this filter frequency is doing the same thing. Basically, it's opening it up completely when it hits the top peak, and then it fades it out. So we're going to get to the point where you don't hear anything at all because it just moved the frequency knob all the way down to the bottom, hence the amount being all the way. And that gives me the motion of 16th notes. Let's see if I can get it here for you. Hold on, don't know why I'm getting it. Okay, I know what it is now. Let's go back to the wiring. Let's go back over here. I forgot what I did. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. There it is. So it's the LFO that is creating this. For example, if I get rid of that. Now the LFO isn't doing anything. 16th notes. So LFOs are awesome, and it is, of course, synced to the drum machine. So it always stays in 16th notes. All I have to do is hit a note, hit the notes, and it plays the 16ths. Very cool. I love it. Why couldn't we hear it earlier? Well, because on a patch change, I have it set to where my pedal immediately is at 0 and the pedal is assigned to volume control. So and I like that when I do the patch change, it goes to 0, so then I don't forget. But I do have to remember to actually put the pedal down because the pedal's automatically up, even though it's set to that. So I put the pedal down, I hit the pad, and we don't hear anything, and that allows me to fade it in, just like Tony Banks does on the recording. And you can program it to be at a certain value on patch change by going to the value setting in the widget properties, and you can just set it to the value you want, an explicit value, and I have it set to 0. There it is. Other cool things. The Kodo sound actually has some cool ones too. If you forgot what that was, it was this thing. All right. One thing I did to it is I went to this guy again and did some more interesting things. For example, I added an attack time, and what this does is that the LFO doesn't, you can see it moves at a pretty slow rate. The LFO is assigned to, again, offer pitch bend change, okay? And I have the envelope sync turned on, which means it's syncing to this, and this attack time does affect it. So I had the attack time so late that if I do not use the sustain pedal, we should not hear this. But when I use the sustain pedal, then it starts doing some pitch bend. So I'm going to hold it down with the sustain pedal here. Right. So it just takes a while before it starts doing that change of speed. And that's because of the delay in the attack time. And that allows me to play it without it while I'm... See, none of that is using the sustain pedal. But I do want the sustain on that last part. And that gives me my nice modulation of pitch bend there for the Kodo. Organ. Yes, I wanted a huge, massive organ sound, and as you can see, all of these Thors and these 2N19s are tone-producing devices. So these are all synthesizers in their own right on a giant rack. I have 6 of them, and then another 6 also set to a different octave, an octave lower. So I took the organ, and I was like, it's still not big enough. And I copied all of it and pasted it again and lowered it an octave. And so it's a pretty large, this is a good example for what you can do with a combinator, is that you can just take a billion different types of devices, merge them together. You can split them up into different regions. You can change them. You can change octaves. You can do whatever you want. And you just make this one massive sound producing device. It's one of the highlights of Reason. This is a good example of it. But you see we have straight up samplers that are just playing organ sounds. So yeah, they're octaved out. That's just one pitch. I'm just hitting one pitch. All right. Then the big one. Towards the end, we use all of the sounds I just talked about, except for the coda. We use the 16ths, we use the organ, and the lead sound are all being utilized at the same time. So this was pretty tough to figure out. The MalletKAT has a feature on it they called melody chord mode, and they have like 3 different melody chord modes, and how it works is interesting. In the fact that, let's say if you play a chord, more than one key, so if you use 2 mallets or more, it will play one of the it'll play one of the cats, like maybe cat controller 2 would do the chord stuff, and then cat controller 1, if I only hit the MalletKAT with 1, it would play the other sound. Now there's different melody chord modes that allow me to do it in different ways. So in this case, I couldn't just do a simple keyboard split. It was a little too difficult. I would have to stretch 2 mallets way far out. So what is going on here is that the melody chord mode I'm using, which I think is mode 1, is whichever mallet of the 4 mallets hits first, it plays cat controller 1, which would be my lead sound. And the rest of the mallets that come after that would play this sound, the organ sound. I think one of the other modes is all of the mallets will play the full chord, but the first mallet would play the lead sound, and I can't remember what the other one does, but this is the one I use where the first mallet that hits plays the lead sound, and the rest of the mallets after that play the organ sound. And in my demonstration, you'll see that sometimes it went to a low note. Twice, actually, it went to a low note because I didn't get my top note to play it first. And you can see I don't mind it. I actually kind of like when it screws up and I don't play the right mallet first. They're all a part of the chord. It's not like I'm playing notes that aren't in the chord, so it totally sounds great. I think it's kind of fun when it actually goes down to a low note at times, and it happened twice on the demo I showed you. So this was a pretty tough one to do. We took the organ that I had. I decided not to do the octave, but then I also added that 16th to it. And again, it's all inside the combinator. So now I had that organ sound I had before, but I also added that 16th sound with the cool LFO and the rate going. I just added that same exact one, and now it's a layered organ and that at the same time. So you'll probably get a little bit of the lead. I'm going to do a chord here. So I made sure the top note was hitting before the 3 lower notes, and that's what gave me the lead sound, and the rest were doing the organ one with the added 16ths to it. Is there something else I need to say about this? No, that's how that program worked. So how do I turn it all off? Well, I decided in this case, sometimes how do I stop the drum machine? I have many options, and I use probably 3 different ways to do this. The way in which I did it here was I went ahead and did a patch change. So I made another one. It says all, no 16ths. I don't want the 16ths playing because I stopped the drum machine. You don't want to hear the dot, 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 dot. So I just went back to the organ, the original organ, and left it at that. And I got the lead sound so I could play the high lead sound. And it doesn't have the 16ths, but it also sends a program change over to Ableton to go to a different scene that doesn't have the drum machine on it at all. I think it goes to our standard static logo over here. Yes, it does. It's supposed to flip over to this one when I do the patch change, and that doesn't have anything on it. So that just automatically turns it off. So that's one way in which I did it, is I just made a patch change to for the drum machine off. It made a patch change to that. The other ways in which I do it, sometimes I do just hit my D sharp key if I have time, depending on the song. Some songs I'll just hit the D sharp to hit the stop command. Yeah, it's either hit the D sharp or do a patch change that will turn it off in some way. Those are my options, and I use them both depending on the song and what I'm doing, which seems to make it, which is easier for me, basically. So I was talking earlier about the use of monophony, and polyphony is the other thing. Monophony means only one note can sound at a time. No matter what I try to do, it will only sound one note. This allows me to play very legato. You can see it sustains forever also. That's the other thing I have to think about that finger playing guys don't have to think about too much. Since I only just hit it like you do a drum, drums only get a short, sharp attack sound, and then even if with a cymbal, it decays, right? So how do I manage to deal with this issue of sustain? Well, one is, of course, I use the sustain pedal probably a lot more than most synth players. And I also play with gate time. So in this case, I have no foot on any sustain pedal. So you can see I have it sustaining for a really long time without doing anything else to it, and that's gate time. So I'm setting the gate time, or the hold. Sometimes you'll see stuff in envelope settings called, we usually have ADSR envelopes, attack, decay, sustain, release, and sometimes there's an H in there somewhere for hold. So gate time, hold time, how long is it gonna hold the note? I have to think about that with all of my sounds. Most of them I put between, oh, I can't remember what I think this is in milliseconds. Let me find my gate time real quick and I'll tell you. Where'd it go? Where'd my gate time go? There it is. So yeah, right now I have it set at 6 seconds. That sound is set at 6 seconds. And about the same also for the lower sound on this split. So it's going to sustain for 6 seconds before it decides to send the note off command. Same thing down here. I think it's more like 5.6 seconds or something. Most sounds I tend to set between 0.25 and 0.35 of a second. So the other thing is with this other sound, so there's that sound that's repetitive. I also use polyphony for this. I'm playing 2 notes at a time every time I play it, but I only have it set to where it can only sound 2 notes at a time. So every time I play 2 more notes, then it cuts off the other one and it gives me nice legato without having to worry about things. And since I have the gate time set so long, I never even have to put a foot on a sustain pedal and I can just play this. And that's how sometimes that's how I have to think a little bit differently than synth players.